You're still watching the Eastern Business Report right here on the Afia Business Morning, and I am Marvelous Apuamaga. This hour on the Afia Business Morning, we put the spotlight squarely on Sujimoto and its CEO Olasijibomi Ogundele. Enugu State says it awarded Sujimoto a 11.46 billion naira contract on July 2, 2024 to deliver 22 smart green schools and paid roughly 5.76 billion naira, half the contract sum, to fast-track works. Officials now allege the company abandoned sites and left behind substandard work. Mr. Ogundele insists inflation, insecurity and operational delays are to blame and denies any fraudulent intent. Today we'll ask the hard questions: was this a collapse of contractor performance, a case of fraud, or a failure of oversight? Joining me on the program to answer these is Mr. Chukwuma Ephraim Okinwa, who is the Executive Director, Lead Network Africa. You're welcome on the program, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. And you?
I'm fine. Afia Radio is celebrating its second anniversary today. Are you aware?
Wow, that's just getting to know about that, and congratulations.
Thank you. Yes. What do you think about Afia Radio? Let's just get your thoughts.
It's been amazing, and I think happy also that I was among those on the day, actually. You know, on that particular hour, Afia Radio went live. You know, we're in the studio, and I'm happy. It's 2 years already, making impact and making the waves, you know, across the city and beyond. And it's a commendable one.
Thank you, Mr. Okinwa. Thank you. So back to our discussion, Sujimoto and Enugu State Government. We've been seeing information, we'll be getting reports on all of this. I'd like to get your thoughts first. What do you think about the whole thing?
So what I think it's, first and foremost, I would say that it's the announcement of a new era, and that the issue of governance and the business of governance. Gone are the days of lost monies through failed contracts. Yeah, because over time you've had monies of taxpayers being lost under the guise of contract in some ways. Some ways could be like perhaps the likes of Sujimoto, right? Maybe could be awarded a contract in time past. And because you know it's government, and government has to do with fund, and it could get messy if the government comes up to raise an alarm, right, by itself. So some government could just like let it go there. Sometimes also some contracts are awarded without even executing, without even excavation. So I see this, so my first impression was, oh, where is this news coming from? And I discover it's coming from the Enugu State Government themselves, right? You know, I see that as a great deal of like transparency now in government. We don't want to lose our money. Yeah, like to an individual, right? You know, the money is a very big money, and indeed it is. But when you look at like state resources, and then also like the backlash that would come from it, because the government, I'm sure, the government of the day must have think through the process and know what it's going to be like, that for some reasons, this information will be interpreted in different ways. There will be that query of, oh, you didn't do your due diligence, or you did your due diligence. There will be that question of, is there like some form of fraud collaboration between the government actors and maybe the Sujimotos? You know, why is this kind of thing? Why will someone have this kind of courage? Like, I mean, someone awarded up to 22 smart green schools. But whatever be the case, I've looked at this matter clearly, right? You know, without any political intent or any point of bias, objectively as a scholar, right? And what I think is that first and foremost, there have been backlashes against the current administration. But one thing I want them to appreciate, everyone to appreciate, is that this information we are dissecting, analyzing, it's all coming from the government wanting to see that things are done the right way. Yes, clearly as the story emerged, we see like some loopholes, you know, on the part of the government, especially when it has to do with due diligence, right? You know, but beyond that, I still think that the fact there was no due diligence and an award that was awarded to a company notable for luxury properties in Nigeria, who should be interested in protecting its name, should not be a justification why you take the state money. The contract has been awarded, accepted, and there's a timeline to execute that.
He says inflation and insecurity were the main reasons he couldn't, the project was stalled. In your view, do these challenges justify his failure to deliver?
Not at all, actually. I mean, in contract awarding, you talk about projections. Even like, for instance, if the budget of the nation is made, right? You look at what is the possibility. Before the end of the beginning of every year, economists look at what we call the outlook for that year. And based on that these factors could affect A, B, C, D. Let's benchmark oil price at this, right? You don't have to go through the year. As you are going through the year, you understand what I'm saying? You have to like be able to think ahead of time. And for him to claim that as a contractor, you want to do project, a 6 months project, you just have to pay it at the 7,000. To me, it doesn't make any sense at all. Nobody does that. What we are talking about here is contract, right? And we're not talking about maybe like you are in the maybe parish council, maybe church project, where 7,000 has to be 7,000. You are talking about government project.
Maybe he was expecting Peter Mbah to give him an entourage because he talked about insecurity.
Well,
the reasons.
The thing there is that for the very fact, if you look at the guy, because I mean, when I was trying to look at this person like in more detail, I saw a news of a case he had in 2020, and then up to 2024, the person was still crying for the money before the FCID was gotten involved in that particular case, and he was detained, right?
Yeah.
So that shows that perhaps he probably might take the light in swindling, because otherwise, if he awarded a contract, right? I mean, you're already big in the sector as a real estate. You understand? You can't tell. The problem for you is not, I don't know, is he doing that if the government underpay you, for instance, you want to do an underpaid job so that tomorrow they will overpay you. Businesses doesn't work that way. He should know better as somebody into real estate. Or perhaps are you doing that as a reference point that if you do it so well, even if it means adding your money, then it could serve as a reference point for you to also handle more government contract. And if that is the case, then whatever be the case, he should have been able to deliver the contract without excuses. You understand? Because the problem is agreement is agreement. No, what is a contract? If a contract is awarded and you accept that, you didn't object to it, then what you should now be talking about is you breach the contract. And there are laws, applicable laws, and the government, on its own has seen it as part of fiscal responsibility to go look for someone who clearly swindled the state. Because if you took the money, right, 6 months down the line, no delivery, over 1 year, we're still talking about the same thing. We are not talking about repaying. Even some of the places, like no
a project that was supposed to have been ready this September for students to resume. In
fact, not even the September, actually, is the time to resume. He was given this project last year and meant to deliver within a timeline of 6 months. So even like my reference in September is just because maybe like that's the timeline the government said. So the government reasonably set a timeline. Let's finish the project, the building. Let's also be like a timeline to equip it and make it ready for education, right? And then you now have all these delays. See, like I tell people, those who make excuses seldomly can make anything else. That's what is a quote by a wise man, right? I think whether it's Emerson or something like that. But then you discover that if someone is given a contract, you have the right of refusal, right? As a matter of fact, you are the one that perhaps you bidded for the contract, or government invited you, which is also like another cause of worry. And analysts and pundits says, okay, when did the government actually, right, open up this for bidding by all qualifying contractors, which is reasonably expected, right? But that's a story for another day, right? But the point there is that as it is where it is, because two wrongs cannot make it right. Yes, there were loopholes on the part of government. There's not the part of, okay, maybe if Jai's Bank, right, issued a bond and the money was not paid in Zenith Bank, what's the implication? Everybody's looking at it and say, okay, even for Jai's Bank at the first instance, to issue a bond, right, are they going to be free, even if the money were not to be paid? Since the condition of issuing bond is not that the money has to be paid in first before a bond is issued. A bond is like a trust. It's like a guarantee, right? So what that means is that if you are guaranteeing someone and maybe the money doesn't come to you and the money doesn't have to come in before you guarantee. So legal experts are now looking at and saying, including Jai's Bank, is not free from the whole conundrum. There's also now another argument of, okay, the second bank that was used? Could it be like a ploy from beginning? But if it's a ploy on the part of Sujimoto, what about those that pay the money to Zenith Bank? Are you understand what I'm saying? You know, are you going to accuse him of fraud for bringing another account from another bank that is not the same bank that issued you bond?
Talking about fraud, you know, this issue or this particular incident has sparked conversations online. People are tweeting, people are saying all sorts. And there was one that caught my attention. Someone that said, Mr. Ogundele, who is the CEO of Sujimoto, is not a fraudster. And I'm asking you from a business perspective, who is a fraudster?
Okay.
What does fraud actually mean?
Okay, so a fraudster basically is someone with an intent, right? You know, it's what we call advanced fee fraud. That's the 419 code, right? Under the criminal code. When you say someone is a fraudster, it means you give a promise, right? And then in the course of that, you want to receive money in advance fee fraud, right? And then when you now get the money, the down payment, you are not able to deliver, right? So you tell somebody, you know what? We can deliver this, make this investment, and this is going to be the return. And the person believes and sends money in advance. And then at the end of the day, you don't, right? So you make promises that you know that you don't intend, right, to fulfill. So the question, you know, to really look at the whole thing critically, right? What we want to think, first and foremost, so let me be very plain about this, right? Look at it on the side of the Ogundele, and then on the side of the government. So let's look at it from the side of the Sujimotos, right? Now, it will be a bit difficult now without a court judgment and criminal conviction to call him a fraudster. That wouldn't be right. He's a businessman. I'm sure Enugu State Government wouldn't go to by somebody that clearly is a fraudster, right? And bring the person to defraud the state. So he has an image, he has a registered company, a business entity that is qualified to handle contracts. And they have also got like great profiles. That one is not deniable, right? Okay. Now, where I think the problem is understanding how contracts should work, and that is not all about an individual now. It's all about the state, right? We are talking about an entire state. Taxpayers' money. The money doesn't belong to Bitamba. We're talking about taxpayers' funds. So imagine like thinking like you come all the way, right, from Lagos, and then you're given a contract in the principle of one Nigeria. And then under that, guys, which like some local contractors are complaining, which is not a problem. We are one nation. But didn't bring a Chinese man to take our money, or someone from another country, right? Maybe other companies, right, that operate, you know, still in Nigeria. But the money is still circulated within the economy, right? And then there's now this question of, oh, but you brought somebody from afar off, and then what about our local? So he did that perhaps based on competence. What is reasonably expected is deliver within good time. Because the earlier the better. You make it while the sun shines, because even the more you allow it, the more you make it more difficult. The very fact that you accepted that contract and didn't deliver shows you as someone running a company that can't keep promises, right? It's an indictment on your business and your image, because you know what is business integrity. If you look at it, review, you are not under force. The government has said, do this, do costings. And then maybe when you brought costings, perhaps you charge each of the building maybe $1 billion, and the government says what? You know what? The least we are going to pay is about maybe 500 or some 61 million or thereabout. You need to check as a businessman. Once you accept, you sign. So you can't tell me you will check exactly at the rate. It doesn't work that way. Businesses are not done that way, right? For contract, government contract. If you are doing that, maybe like, you know, in some other guys that is not government, right? There's always like that projection to ensure that you accommodate, you know, unforeseen circumstances.
You know, this guy has a history.
Yes.
Online, we've seen people call him out.
Yes.
Of, you know, some issues.
Yes.
So if you're saying this is not a case of fraud, what is it?
Okay, so let me say something. The fact people called him out, let me tell you that the real estate sector is a very dicey sector.
Okay.
It's dicey in the sense that Someone could give you money, right? Paying some money to get property. And at the end of the day, you discover that the property is under contention. Meanwhile, you made some commitment, right? And at that point, the person is saying, give me back my money, you're a fraudster, maybe engage some people and they are calling you all manner of names. But you know that you are not fraudster. You just know that you are just unfortunate to be faced with. It's a very dicey business, very risky. That you can come like in a case like practically witness where people could lose like hectares of land after making purchase it. And at the end of the day, you know who they will go for. The person that sold, I have like one of the most honest men in this city that bought a land from a source, like the land was under contention. And out of the land he bought, right, he resold, he got about 20 plots. Someone who is also a trusted ally of him he sold 10 plots, you understand, at a higher price, made some money out of it, right, and was able to use the money immediately. Pepper don't rest. Only 5 months down the line, the property was under contention, and the person said, "Now I know, I bought the property from you," and he had to because he has already invested the money rally round. Anybody that understand how business works, understand that a businessman, you may not have to like sit down on top of money. As the money is coming, maybe he's repaying back some debt, he's doing back something. So the fact that somebody comes up online and start crying foul does not necessarily mean that the person, you understand what I'm saying, that he is a fraudster. We need like the courts to confirm that he's one. And assuming he has criminal conviction, then perhaps we would have held him back responsible and say, why you see somebody who is a criminal, right? But I can tell you, to be fair enough to him, no Nigerian man is qualified to call him as a criminal. He's not one. He's the business guy doing his business, right? And then the very fact also that the government could say, okay, Mr. Man, we don't understand you. On the basis of this contract we gave you, because to me, I wouldn't want to just say, okay, or the government was ill-intended to bring him or had like some unclear, plans or dealings with him. That would be premature, to issue such kind of assessment. But what I can say for sure is that when I listened to the video by the young man with all the beautiful tears, right? The government described it in another way, but I want to see it as beautiful tears, right? One thing I was looking out for is, Oga, could you tell us that maybe the government compelled you to take the contract? I was crying, I don't want the contract. They compelled me. There was nothing of such. Don't tell us inflation. You understand? You are in a business that even by the moment things can change. You can go to buy land from Nike today, right? And the next moment it has already sold. So just
and the government understands.
Yes, the government understands all those things. In fact, it's just applicable to every sector that you can't want to do something. Even those that cook as simple as party rice. We factor in some things that the next price, the price you costed maybe crayfish 1 month ago may not be the same price by the time that contract they are giving you for their wedding. So you make projections. And I see also telling me there was no room for contingencies, right? Which is usually like marked at 10% of the entire. There is like, you understand, in a good budget, there should be like that space. So that if this one increased slightly, you carry from there and put here and then make it up.
Would you say this is a case of incompetence?
I would say it's incompetence actually.
Okay.
Incompetence, and number two, lack of integrity. The young man visibly lacks integrity. Because let me tell you, when you know the face of your company is at stake, you came to accept the contract. If there is not any place where in the contract is clearly stated that perhaps if 3 months into down the line, pending on, in drafting, like those of them who are legal experts, right? They will always make room for everything. So assuming there is like provision in the contract signing that this is based on these rates, the current rates, that if this thing changes, this is what that is going to impact on the cost, right? Things like that. It works, it makes sense. But a situation where someone can come out from the blues over 1 year of the contract, you are not telling us like now the bag of cement is, meanwhile, bag of cement is still at 9,000 something. It's not up to 10,000. So Sujimoto added money also. So, but the point there that we are trying to say is if he has bought it, right? Like even let's say 8 months down the line now, it wouldn't be the same price. Because I know that cement, right? The price was just reviewed just about 3 months ago to 9.3. So using a year after illustration to justify something that before even the inflation will hit the cement should have been completed is a weak argument.
So looking at all this, Mr. Okinwa, before we let you go, how much of this failure should be blamed on Sujimoto, and how much on the government's oversight? Because there are loopholes from the side of the government,
certainly,
like you said.
certainly. So for Sujimoto, right, he should realize as a company you have a face. You are an entity. You can sue and you can be sued. As it stands now, he can't sue the government. You know why? Government will say, come on, we agreed for this. And you accepted it. Based on the payment plan that we structured, we complied. Did you comply with your own? What is that? Breach of contract. Contract successfully awarded. What was expected of Sujimoto is contract timely, right, and efficiently delivered. Did he meet up with that? Certainly not. He came up with excuses. No be excuses that government paid for. Government paid for 22 smart schools. It's either you deliver that or you deliver the money. There are no two ways about that, right? Agreement is agreement. It's clearly stated. On the part of government, this really calls for more. Well, I'm going to command like Peter Mba, like what they did was...
for outrightly calling him.
Yes, I'm telling you the simple truth. I'm telling you because, I mean, he knew that there is going to be that backlashes.
Yeah.
I'm sure you must have gone through like a kind of like period of critical assessment as a leader. And I arrived and say, for the interest of the state. Yes, I know, say, nah, guy, there's a place you missed it. But for the interest of the state, we can't lose this money. Gone are the days people can take money away from the state. I'm sure, like I can imagine, I'm a leader, I understand how some of these things you can be like in critical moments. But you say, notwithstanding, we can't lose this money, right? Let's go public. And then coming on public, based on the things government is presenting, people are now looking for, loopholes and stuff like that, right? So, but what we can now say is that this really calls that, okay, perhaps the government, right, could make this whole process more transparent. Both in the bidding, let people get to know like every details. We probably don't need a Sujimoto to happen before we even need to know how much a smart school worth, right? So what I think it's the government can be more accountable, can be more open in the system, can be more accommodating, right? In terms of, because if he actually bidded for this and eventually settled, right, with the choice one, he will know that if you are not meeting up, it's either you come humbly, right, and say, please, can you appropriate a little more fund? Yes, there are cases where things like this can, government of the day can look at it and say, come on, yes. Based on the governor being who he is, right? Assuming that he decided and said, okay, let's make the price of this strictly based on the market survey, then he will not be in a position to understand. But to abandon the job
without proper communication.
Until the last we are hearing from you, or the first we are hearing from you is that because the government, right, has gone to meet the EFCC, and allegedly he's been invited a couple of times. Anybody that the security forces, government invite you, first time, second time, the next thing is to declare you wanted. So we didn't have to wait to that. And then when the government now did the needful to declare you wanted, you are saying they are destroying what you spent years to build. Come on. If you build integrity, like every business person will understand. Like I tell people, integrity in business doesn't mean you don't lie. You don't owe anybody the truth. But when you make a promise, integrity demands you must have to keep it. If you make a promise as a business person, nobody forced you, right? When you tell lies, sometimes nobody may know, but integrity in business suggests that once you make a promise, you've gone public with it, the one in your heart, anything you say about it, anybody can accept it to be the truth. But once you bring it and then formalize it as either memorandum of understanding, contract, a binding on both parties that are involved, come on, you just have to deliver. If you don't deliver, you are liable.
Thank you so much, Mr. Okinwa. Our time is fast spent. Thank you for joining us on the Eastern Business Report today.
You're welcome. The pleasure is mine.
And that's much we can take on the Eastern Business Report today. Till I see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. for another edition of the Afia Business Morning. I am Marvelous Apuamaga. Many thanks for staying with us. Bye for now.